find yourself in an unfamiliar environment, either because you're marooned on a desert island or because you're by choice putting distance between yourself and something that's a threat to you, being able to use whatever is in your environment and whatever you can find can mean the difference between life and death. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. In the well-known movie Castaway, we see Tom Hanks playing a character who was marooned on a desert island, and he finds a couple of packages that washed out that were supposed to be delivered to people around the world, and we soon see how he uses the things in those packages to survive. And I had a particularly good time watching that scene in the movie because as he's opening parcels, my mind is going, okay, survival applications here. And that's where this parcel comes in. But before I go any further, this video is sponsored by Marine SHTF. Go and check out his YouTube channel. Thank you very much for the parcel. And having said that, I'm going to do a little castaway exercise here and see if I can come up with some survival applications for the contents of this box. Whatever is in here, I'll try to add some links in the description to this video. So if you want to add some of it to your bug out bag, go and check the description of this video for the links. So first things first, we look at the box and the first thing we think is cardboard burns really nicely. But a lot of us don't actually think of the insulating properties that cardboard has. And the same goes for plastic as well. And there's actually so much tape on here. And so even though cardboard burns really well, we've got to remember that whatever we burn is a resource depleted. We're not going to get that back. So if we can use something for a better purpose, like insulating ourselves, building a bed, making something soft, or storing something, then we'd rather do that than burn that item. So first out of the box are two hats. These are pretty good. Let's see. These are Marine Corps hats. Well, I suppose from someone like Marine SHTF, you would expect some military stuff. Because there's two, I would actually make some shoes out of these. The reason why is if you're busy foraging or you're on the rocks or you have to hunt and you're out in the wilderness, if for whatever reason you don't have shoes, you're going to wear through your feet quite quickly. And having said that, any piece of cordage is absolute gold in the wilderness. Whether it's natural cordage or whether it is something synthetic, these can be repurposed for a bow drill. They can be repurposed for tying things together. You can even make some fishing line out of this. So this actually has quite a lot of purposes other than keeping you from suffering from severe sunburn and heat stroke. So next out of the box is a Ka-Bar knife. And this, this is a Becker Kephart knife. So this is the BK62 knife. Now Horace Kephart, who designed the original knife like this, is considered by many folk to be the father of bushcraft. So this is an excellent survival knife, a full tang knife that can do just about absolutely anything that you need it to, barring that it doesn't have a 90-degree spine, which unless you carry a ferro rod in your pocket with you when you're marooned isn't going to matter. And it comes with a nice sheath, so that's easy for you to carry around. A knife or a sharp tool is an absolute must as a survival implement. And even if you don't have a knife, even taking a stone and napping it a bit until you've got a sharp edge on that stone. You can even take the glass out of your watch and break that so that you've got something to skin with, something to start fire with, and something to hunt with. A stunning present, thank you so much. But in this case, the knife isn't the only important object here. We can also make use of the box in a survival situation. So this box is actually a pretty good candidate. If you use some of the tape from the original parcel, you can make a trap out of this. Cut a little hole in it, make a little snare, a little trap door, so that you can trap even small animals like rats or crab, just so that you actually have something to eat as well. So this is a canteen sheath, and anything that is a container or a bag of some sorts can be used to actually collect things in. Whether you're collecting eggs or whether you're collecting mussels, anything that you go around foraging or collecting can be stored in here. And this is actually quite a nice one. It's got some side pouches here too, so you can store your gear in here. Once you clip it onto your belt, you can put whatever materials you like to carry with you. Maybe you've got a bow drill kit that you've made, you can put that there, or maybe you've got a sharp rock that you have flint napped a little bit and that's serving as your knife. Anything that you need to carry with you can then go in the bag. And bubble wrap is actually a fantastic insulator. So even if you only have a little bit, covering the parts of yourself that are prone to losing heat, like your head, your neck, under your arms, your groin, because it's such a great insulator, if you stuff your clothes in those places with bubble wrap, it will definitely help you thermoregulate, especially in cold temperatures. Maybe you're not on a nice balmy sunny beach like I am, or maybe it just gets really cold where you are. Maybe you're in the desert, and at night the temperatures in the desert drop really low, so even in a desert situation this can help you to stay warm at night. Okay, inside is a watch, and this is an Invicta diving watch. So watches in the wilderness, and it's the reason why I always wear an analog watch, have so many more purposes over what digital watches do. A watch can help you to determine direction. You can make a field compass out of it. In the southern hemisphere, you point the 12 o'clock of the watch at the sun. The best is actually to put it down and use a little stick and put it right by the 12 o'clock, and you can draw a line halfway between the 12 o'clock and the hour hand of the watch, and bisecting that gives you a north-south line. That north-south line will help you to determine direction. Now obviously you've still got to determine which is north and which is south, but you can do that by the movement of the sun, and there are some other ways. In the southern hemisphere you'll tend to find water and shadows on the southern side of rocky outcrops and so. And if you haven't watched my video on field compass navigation yet, you can definitely go and check that out. I'll link that over here. Aside from navigation, if you take a watch apart, most watches have a convex lens or a convex glass, and you can use that to make fire. And if you remove the back part of the watch, this little silver part over here, or you don't even actually have to remove it, that's quite bright and reflective, so you can use that to signal for help. So if you see a ship or some boat or something that's far out and you're trying to get their attention, often yelling at them isn't going to get their attention because they'll be too far away. So that's why we make smoky fires, and that's why we use signal mirrors in order to get the attention of rescue parties. What are you up to? So that is a really lovely watch, and it is a diving watch if I recall, so definitely going in the water with me. Out of the pouch comes more bubble wrap and another watch. So if you happen to have two watches in a parcel like this, what on earth could you actually use two watches for to survive? Well, if you have two watches, you can use the one for navigation and take the other one apart. The glass, for example, can be used as a cutting tool. If you break it, you can use it to start a fire. You can use the buckle to make a makeshift fishing hook so that you can fish. All of the parts of the one watch can be taken apart and used separately while the other one remains intact. Indy, shall we see what else is in here? Right, so this is a 239th Marine Corps birthday. It looks like a gift. Oh, it's a souvenir. So this is a bottle stopper. Now, unless you're drinking a bottle of wine while you're marooned, I don't think you're going to need a bottle stopper. But it can serve as a grappling hook. You can even make a pretty good weapon out of this. Considering that there's a lip over here, if you tie this to a stick or a spear of some sort, you have a pretty sharp edge here, and you can own this even sharper in order to be able to use this as a spear tip. Besides that, having something commemorative that is encouraging for people to remain alive, as we saw in the same movie with Tom Hanks, he kept one parcel aside that he didn't open because it was motivation for him to make sure that he gets back to his family and that he delivers that one parcel. So motivation is so underestimated in survival situations because we can so easily get demoralized by the situation and the environment. So having something that motivates you to stay alive and to continue trying to get rescued is actually very valuable. And the same can be said for anything else that's commemorative, something like a letter. Even if the letter wasn't meant for you, anything that you read is going to be a reminder that there is civilization out there. Even if you are in a remote location and you're marooned and you're completely by yourself, just having some or the other thing that reminds you that there are other people out there and that there's someone waiting for you to get home is going to keep you motivated to stay alive. And this is an emergency solo hand crank portable radio, and it's right up there with things that lift your spirits and increase morale in any survival situation. Being able to listen to some or the other person talking over the radio is going to tell you that there are cell phone towers or that there are repeaters somewhere nearby, and if you do actually catch up a frequency, you might be able to tell exactly where you are judging by the language that's being spoken. Let's see if this catches anything. RSG. Literally, it's RSG. So this little radio also happens to have a solar panel at the top, so it will charge in the sun. And with a light like this, if it'll go on now, I think it needs to charge for a bit. Anything that has a light in the wilderness can be used actually to hunt. So switching a light on outside your campsite will lure all kinds of insects to that light at night. And all of those insects, of course, are prey to something. So whatever eats all of the insects in that environment is going to come looking. So you might find that you have an opportunity to hunt by leaving a tiny light on. As it happens, this also has a USB-C cable, and there is a USB out port here. So if you do have a cell phone that's in working order and it takes USB-C, you can actually charge your cell phone or anything else that you have on you with this, and you can try and call for help with that. Other things that come out of the box are a t-shirt. This is a US Marine Corps t-shirt, and you can actually use any clothing that you've got to splint a limb, splinter injury, to dress a wound, to put pressure on any wounds or any bleeding. So it's very valuable to have some cloth or some piece of fabric around. And then it goes without saying that having some extra layers at night is going to keep you warm and help you to thermoregulate. So brown paper makes for wonderful tinder. And even if you're struggling to light a fire and there isn't any dry materials in the environment, if you have a bit of dry paper and you keep it in an inside pocket, you can actually keep that dry as tinder to help you to make a fire. Now, this is currently serving the purpose of concealing a knife. So this is knife number 2, and this is a Khyber knife, which is a Japanese Ka-Bar knife. It is a dagger, and it's got a boot clip over here. And the boot clip is nice because it means that you can clip it onto anything else. It's sort of similar to the clips that the MAROONED knives have, in that it just literally clips onto whatever belt or whatever clothing piece you've got, or onto a little bag. Now, because this is a dagger, it's actually really nice to use this as a spear. And because of the way that they've made the handle, you can actually quite easily tie that to a branch or to a stick and make a spear out of this one, especially if you've got a primary blade. Generally, I wouldn't recommend that you throw your knives in the bush, because if you throw it somewhere that you struggle to retrieve it, then you've lost your knife. But because there is a primary here and this is a secondary, this could easily be put onto the tip of a branch or of a stick to make a spear. And if you've got a little bit of cordage, like say from the hats, you can definitely use that to make a weapon to protect yourself or defend yourself, and you can also use this to hunt. Now, in here is also an MRE, and I believe chili and macaroni is one of the firm favorites among the troops or the people who actually eat these on a regular basis. But not only is this a source of food and a hot meal, which is amazing for boosting morale, and which is why they've put so much effort into developing these in the first place, because a warm meal can actually do so much to lift someone's spirits. There is also a plastic bag here that we can use. So if you do have something like this in the wilderness, even if it's not an MRE, but you find a plastic bag, don't rip it open so that you can't use the bag again. Because even if it's not food grade, you can still boil water in a bag. And I made a video on how to boil water in an oven bag. You can check that one out. I'll link it here too. So you don't want to put it directly on a fire, but putting it nearby a fire, or even heating up some rocks in a fire and putting them inside the bag, can help you to boil water in your bag so that you have drinking water. Any plastic bags or packets that you find can also be used to collect water from trees. If you tie that plastic bag onto a branch, through transpiration, you'll find that over time, those leaves release water and it collects inside the bag so that you have drinking water. And naturally, any water like that is drinkable, except if it comes from a poisonous plant. Here is also a little elastic band, and it's a little one of those little bracelet ones, and this can actually be used to build traps or snares quite easily. You can also use this to make a slingshot that you can hunt small game with. There's also a pair of sunglasses in here, and I don't have my sunglasses on me right now, so I reckon these are going to go straight on my head as they usually go. They're even zebra style. What do you think, Indy? Hey, what do you think? Does it suit me? Eye protection is crucial if you're working with anything that lets off debris. So if, for example, you're flint knapping, you're breaking stones to try and get a sharp edge, it's nice to have some eye protection because any splinters that come off that stone can damage your eyes. They're also nice if you're in an environment where it's windy and there tends to be a lot of sand blowing about, so it'll keep the debris out of your eyes. And if they are polarized, you can also use them when you're fishing because it removes the glare off of the water so you can see movement under the water a lot easier. All of these little bits and parts that you see, the little zips, the little clips, all of these things can be used to make traps and snares as well. And in here I find some carabiners, and the carabiners also have a little key ring on them, this little loop over here. All of this used for traps and snares. And carabiners are some of my favorite things. I clip them onto absolutely everything, and you can use them to climb, keep your gear together. And the other thing that you can use carabiners for is to make a tourniquet. If you've got no other options, it's not ideal to try and improvise a tourniquet. So if you have a proper tourniquet, always use that first. But if you don't, and you've got two carabiners or even just one carabiner, you can put a buff or a piece of material, even a t-shirt, around whatever limb you need to tourniquet. Clip the carabiner onto it and twist that carabiner so that piece of fabric goes tight. The minute it's tight enough and it occludes that blood flow, you clip the second carabiner onto that piece of fabric and you clip the two together to keep it from unwinding. Then there is another light in here. This is a Olight, and it's just a small little torch that has a battery in it. And we know that batteries are wonderful for starting fires, because if you have usually it's a AA battery, but this one will work as well. This is a AAA battery. If you take this battery and you use a piece of tinfoil, let's say a gum wrapper, you can start a fire with that gum wrapper using the battery. It does take a little bit of practice, and there is a bit of a trick to it, so make sure that you practice that before you actually need to do that. So nice to have a little torch around. This one is light and small, and because of that you can actually easily clip it onto your belt or just keep it on you, or even keep it on you when you're sleeping at night. So if you hear something funny, you don't have to scramble and look for a light or try and reignite a fire. You've got a tiny little torch. Except for the MRE, there are two coffees in here. I think they're coffees. Gourmet coffee, yeah. Apple crumble and campfire small. These sound really divine. But what I can actually use the packet for is to start a fire. And using the tin foil of these coffee sachets and the battery inside this torch, you can start a fire. So you will have to cut the tin foil in such a way, sort of an hourglass shape is the best. You don't want to make it too narrow in the middle because then it just completely combusts and disappears. But if it's wide enough in the middle, that piece of tin foil or that piece of wrapper, usually gum wrappers work really well because they've got the foil on the one side and the paperish part on the other. If you cut it to exactly the right size and you press it to the terminals of the battery, then the middle part of that piece of wrapper actually starts to burn. And if you've got a little bundle of tinder nearby, you can start a fire that way. Now there's one more item in here, and this looks to be like another Ka-Bar knife. And let's open this up. Ooh, that's nice. So this is a 1219 C2 fighting and utility knife. This is what the Marine Corps are issued with. It is a Ka-Bar knife, and it is a beast of a knife. So this is survival in a sheath. I mean, like, what more could you ask for? This is absolutely amazing. Originally, these knives went into production in 1942, but they have been issued throughout many wars, and they are so popular that they have continued making them, and I believe they're still in production today. And this has got quite a wild sheath to it. It is an absolutely stunning knife. It has my name inscribed into it, and it is an absolute wonderful gift. Let me know in the comments what you think about some of these items, and if you can think of some cool survival applications that I haven't mentioned in this video. Until the next time, live ready.